Hey guys, how's it going? This is Salmon17, and this time this is a topic I really wanted to talk about for a while, and is the fact that I wanted to say why, I wanted to actually explain why I am, one of those people who buys like next gen consoles or next gaming PCs. And the reason why that is because of the fact that one, they are really expensive, and two is that I feel like modern gaming industry or modern gaming community itself is just hyping up games way too much. Like I feel like ever since I think the success of The Last of Us, I feel like more and more games are becoming more like these cinematic masterpieces instead of being them like video games. The reason why I never actually bought the next gen console is because one, I don't have a space for it, and two is that the fact that there aren't a lot of many good games to actually play on next gen console. I still play games on the PS2, PS3, and I still enjoy them because one, they actually feel like video games, and two, they don't feel like movies. Because I feel like it's not like I completely hate The Last of Us. I feel like the game is really amazing. It has a really good challenge, especially on harder difficulties, and it is intense, especially when you go against the infected, the clickers and stuff like that. But my biggest issue is the fact that with this, how successful The Last of Us was, the more and more games like the new God of War game is becoming this more cinematic masterpiece, 10 out of 10 kind of game. I actually played the previous God of War games on PS3. I bought the HD collection for God of War 1 and 2, and also God of War 3 on PS3 because I really enjoy God of War games, and even though they're not as spectacular hack and slash games compared to Devil May Cry games, which are really difficult games. The only Devil May Cry game I beat was the first Devil May Cry game. I still enjoy playing these challenging type of games that have like this ton of action, really cool music, really cool set pieces, has a pretty interesting story, not the best story, but a pretty interesting story, and the fact that you still can skip cutscenes if you don't want to watch the whole idea of the character, what he goes through and stuff like that. But with today's gaming generation, my biggest pet peeve is the fact that people are hyping up new games like the new God of War game or the new Spider-Man game. I do apologize if I'm talking some things bad about Spider-Man PS4, but my biggest problem is that fact that people are hyping up those games way too much. Like 10 out of 10s, this is a bit too much for a game. 10 out of 10 is a score that is a game that has no flaws, that is basically the biggest coming of Christ, like like with the new God of War game. I actually watched Jacksepticeye watch the game. Like I said, I'm not planning on getting a next gen console anytime soon, even though I really would love to play the new Spider-Man game. The fact that people are hyping up those games way too much is the main issue, especially with these gaming journalists like Ian, GameStop and whatever. I feel like with these next gen games, I feel like they're hyping up too much. Like people, even nowadays, even the modern gaming community, hype up the new God of War game like this awesome game, 10 out of 10 game. It's the best thing ever. It's like with these kind of people, it's like then they either play the previous games or haven't, or in the worst case scenario, have played the previous God of War games but never understood the story. A lot of people say God of War now is good because Kratos, this is emotional father figure, he's more sympathetic type of character, and that's a good thing. Like one of the reasons, like a lot of I actually watched the video on YouTube that I even played the previous God of War games, and Kratos was sympathetic, was a sympathetic character before, even in the beginning of the games, especially in the first God of War game. You learn why he has this big rage against the gods, because Ares, for example, betrayed him and betrayed Kratos, made him doing his own bidding, and even made Kratos, you know, kill his own family by accident. And because of that, Kratos feels this incredible rage of the gods, because they're scum. They always betray him. They always make false promises to him, and that's why Kratos is like this, one of those most memorable characters, because he hates the gods because they betrayed him, and he still feels the heavy burden that he has, that he committed in the past, his family being dead, his daughter being dead. He feels this sympathy, but he doesn't show it much, because it's like the biggest reason why. It is the reason why I don't like these new interpretations of the Halo games that 343 Industries come up with, is the fact that they make Master Chief this more sympathetic character. But the reason why Master Chief is such an awesome character is because he barely talks, he barely makes any dialogue, because he's a super soldier, he's a badass, he's supposed to be fighting the good. It's not like he doesn't have any emotions, but he's still finding the good fight, and he tries to do his own mission. The fact that they make Master Chief this more talkative, sympathetic character, it doesn't work, because Bungie, when he made the Halo games, he wanted the players to experience, to make them feel like they are the Master Chief, they are the person inside the suit, they are the guy who fights the evil, and you know, the evil covenant. And that was the whole reason Bungie made the Halo games, to actually make you feel like you are Master Chief. If Master Chief always talks in these even the gameplay sequences all the time, and you don't have that feeling, you don't feel like you're this ultimate badass who fights the evil covenant, the flood, any kind of evil you're facing as, you know, this big Spartan 117. And with the God of War games, the reason why I like the previous God of War games is because of the badass gameplay. It's a hack and slash game. You feel this urge, you know, you feel this rage that Kratos feels. You actually go out of your way to actually throw everything at the enemies as much as you can, even though you have to conserve magic in the game, especially if you play these games on harder difficulties. A lot of people say the combat is better in the new God of War game, but I feel like it doesn't work, especially considering that the previous games were hack and slash games, and they pretty much removed jumping for whatever reason, because they want to make the cinematic feel of type of experience, and I don't like that, because it feels less like a video game and more like a interactive movie rather than you actually playing the game. Some people think I might be biased by this accusation I'm making for these newer games and next gen games, but it is kind of true, because I want to play video games. I don't want to play interactive movies. The reason that I want to actually explain this, the reason why The Last of Us worked is because it was intended that way. It was actually built that way, and developers actually tried to make the game the way they wanted it, with this whole cinematic experience. But even though you play these games, you feel less control of your character. You can still explore, but sometimes I feel like, Joe, please run faster. You're just skipping everything. And this is one of those reasons why, is because the AI itself doesn't stop when they go to the objective, but you need to stop to explore, you know, the environment, to actually find some secrets like comic books and notebooks and whatever, and ammo, stuff like that, because it is a survival game as well at the same time, because you're dealing with not just with the infected, but also dealing with the human beings that basically try their best to survive as well, but they're more crazy, insane, because they have these different methods of surviving, to kill the people who they feel like they don't deserve to live, and try to smack you in the face with a plank or put a bullet through your head. And this is one of those reasons I really don't like this. The many games nowadays do the same thing, making making these cinematic experience type of games. And I feel like with the people are even hyping up Red Dead Redemption 2, even though the game hasn't come out yet. Now they're still giving it 9s, 10s, whatever, and I do like kind of feel, and one of the reasons why I also don't like next gen gaming is the fact that they're focusing more on realism rather than the gameplay, than the actual fun of the game. Realism is cool and all, but we experience real life in the real world, and yeah, I mean, video games, they add that stuff, it is also really cool, but how long it will last? Like this whole, you know, realistic graphics kind of feel, I don't feel like it doesn't contradict the fact that you're playing a video game. You want to have fun, you want to do stuff you don't usually do in real life. The reason why I still play games like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and even Bully on PS2, and yeah, San Andreas on PC, because my copy of San Andreas always gets destroyed. I think I might actually get Grand Theft Auto Vice City on PS2 someday in the future, but I will think about it later. But with the whole idea, with the whole cinematic experience, the graphics are not this whole realism thing. It doesn't make the game. What makes a game is the gameplay and the player show, you know, freedom of choosing what they want to do, what kind of objectives they want to do to progress the story, if they want to do side quests or not. And the fact that they focus more on realism rather than the actual gameplay of the game, it feels like you forget about that game really fast. Like, I still love the Uncharted series, but I haven't touched them for a real long time, because unlike the PS2 games, like Bully, I still replay Bully, Need for Speed Most Wanted, and even Ratchet and Clank on PS2, is the fact that they actually focusing on more on not just on the story, but also the gameplay of the game, because we're playing a video game, not an interactive movie. Imagine if Ratchet and Clank, of all things, decided to go this whole stupid cinematic route that the many other games, like the new God of War game on PS4, the whole Last of Us thing, Last of Us Part 2, and many other games. And imagine how it will kill the immersion of you playing the video game, you controlling the character, making decisions for that character, and what actions you will do against the enemies, what kind of decisions you will make. The reason why a lot of people might argue against the fact that Metal Gear Solid series have these long cutscenes, but you can actually skip them if you actually play the game for the first time and experience the story. You can skip these cutscenes whenever you want. Well, I don't know if you can skip cutscenes on Metal Gear Solid 4. I haven't actually checked that. I think you can actually do that. But the reason why the long cutscenes is because this is the first time the game tried to actually, you know, create this kind of cinematic feel. But the fact that many other games you try to do the exact same thing nowadays is a bit jarring, because when I look at Death Stranding, for example, yes, I have huge respect for Kojima as a, you know, producer, but Death Stranding, for example, we don't know anything about the game, we don't know what will happen in the game, and the fact, and I don't know what it is about the game that it makes special. Like, we actually did see some gameplay of the game, but I feel like it feels like this again this whole cinematic experience. Like, if I wanted to watch a movie, I will buy a Blu-ray or DVD and watch a movie, or download a torrent or something to actually watch it. I don't want to play a game that barely makes me interact with things and just takes away the controller from my hands, because I want to play a game that makes me do cool stuff that I can do in real life. That is what video games are for, to actually make you do stuff you can't do in real world. The reason why I love the Grand Theft Auto series is the fact that each installment of the game makes you go back in time of the different timelines. Like, for example, Grand Theft Auto Vice City takes place in like late 70s or in the early 80s, and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas takes place in the late 90s, and that is really cool because you explore this huge world that you never experienced before, and you actually feel like you're actually in that timeline, and that is what I really like about the Grand Theft Auto series as a whole, because they can change the timeline. This is why I also love Red Dead Redemption, because you go to these Western times, and I feel like I'm actually a cowboy and experiencing this, how the Western times actually worked in the past, and I feel like I feel like a badass when I explore this whole, you know, West type of world that the Red Dead Redemption gives me. And this is what I really like about, because even though the game has cutscenes and doesn't have this kind of interactive movies, less, you know, it does focus on realism, but it doesn't focus on realism too much to, you know, so because the Rockstar, even back in the PS3 days, they still understood they actually were making a video game, not a movie. So because of that, I really don't like, you know, I'm not too keen on next gen consoles. I still love enjoying playing Sega Genesis games on Sega Mega Drive's classics. When I bought it on PS3, I still enjoy playing Streets of Rage, even though I'm not super good at it. I still enjoy Sonic the Hedgehog games, the older ones, and even though I'm not real good at these games, I still enjoy playing them because it focuses more on gameplay rather than this whole cinematic experience, because those games are fun. They're really fun to play. But nowadays we live in a world where people expect more better graphics, and because of that, if a game has good graphics, then it means the game is good, and I don't feel that, because if you guys don't know, when I started gaming, I didn't actually, even though PS2, when I got my first time I got my PlayStation 2 during my birthday, which is also in the exact same day where Christmas Eve is coming, when I first got my PS2, this is what was the time when I became a gamer. But when I first originally discovered video games as a whole is when I played the Sega Genesis at my friend's house a few years back, and because of that I experienced games that I never experienced before, like Tiny Toon Adventures, The Flintstones, Echo the Dolphin, and many other video games. And then I later on played some PS1 games at my other friend's house, because he had a PS1, and then I got a PS2, which is a better console, you know, next generation. And then I bought PS3 because I never experienced games that I missed out on playing, because a lot of people ask for remasters and HD remakes, but I feel like with the whole remasters HD remakes thing, it doesn't make the game good. It doesn't make the gaming industry as a whole good, because it feels like the gaming industry as a whole, with this whole HD remake kind of things, feel like the gaming industry is, as itself is becoming really lazy. For example, The Last of Us had a remaster on PS4 a year after when the original game you know, was released, and I feel like, why would you do a HD remake for a game that came out a year ago? Like, that makes no sense. Even though they even made a remaster for God of War 3 on PS4, and I feel like that makes no sense. The game is still good on the PS3, and the fact that people haven't played the previous God of War games on the PS4, then what is the point of playing God of War 3 if you don't understand the story of the game, of the previous two games? And that is really frustrating. No, I'm not like super biased or against the HD remakes as a whole. I still own HD remakes for a lot of PS3 games, like Ratchet and Clank trilogy, Jack and Daxter trilogy, Metal Gear Solid HD collection, God of War HD collection for, you know, first two games. And because of that, those HD remasters make sense, because those games are much older. Metal Gear Solid 2, I feel like it came out like 11 years ago, and the fact that they made an HD remake for Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3 and also Peace Walker, it means that they actually understand what the HD remasters mean, because they wanted to give people to give games that people who missed out on PS2 days to play them on the new next-gen system with more, you know, higher frame rates and more smoother gameplay. They don't change the graphics too much, because those are PS2 games, and if they focused more on graphics, the game won't run as smoothly as now, without this whole 30. It will run in 30 FPS, like 720p, and that will be a disaster. And we would really want a better graphics but less steady gameplay. Is that what you really want, guys? And yeah, I'm not doing a facecam video with this one because I really wanted to talk about why I'm not really keen on next gen consoles and next gen games or whatever. And yeah, that will be it for my video. Let me guys know in the comments what you think of next gen games. Do you think and what do you think of my points there that I made for the whole gaming industry kind of thing? Do you agree with me? Don't you agree with me? If you agree with me, let me know in the comments or whatever. And this is Salmon7 signing off, because right now I don't know, on Tuesday I will go to our 3 days Grace concert on Riga. So yeah, see you guys later, and yeah, keep going strong, guys.